Yeah.
Good morning, if you're watching at home on YouTube. Welcome to the Lowestoft Town Council, and welcome to everybody in the room here at Hamilton House. With me this morning are Councillor Andy Pearce, Councillor Bernie Rappensberger, Councillor Lee Shulman, Councillor John Pitts, Councillor Wendy Brooks, and myself, Councillor Sonia Barker, Chair of Lowestoft Town Council Events and Comms. And also we have with us from the staffing side, Christopher Meek, who is the Office Manager for Lowestoft Town Council, and we have Michael Winter, who's the Communications Officer for Lowestoft Town Council. Fire evacuation procedure for Hamilton House. Good morning. There are no fire alarm tests planned for today, and so should the fire alarm sound, it will be for real. In the event of a fire, please follow the instructions that will be given and congregate at the fire assembly point on the grass verge in front of the Quick Fit building. The fire exits are the main flight of stairs and the flight of stairs from the kitchen. Reporting at meetings. In the interest of openness and transparency, councillors and members of the public are reminded that the law permits any person to film, record, photograph or use social media in order to report on the proceedings of a meeting of the council or its committees when they are open to the public. The town council will record this meeting. Filming and photography will only be permitted from the area designated. No flash photography or additional lighting should be used without prior consent. Anyone wishing to report on the meeting should notify the clerk or chair so that they can be afforded reasonable facilities. People under the age of 18 or other members of the public not wishing to be filmed or photographed should notify the clerk or chair and should sit in the area designated for this purpose. Improper conduct or any disruptive behaviour could result in expulsion from the meeting. Can you also ensure that your mobile phones are changed to silent or switched off and adhere to the non-smoking policy for this building and the grounds of Hamilton House? So welcome to everyone. Just to mention that 3 members of this committee have to leave promptly at 12 noon. So just so that you're aware of that. That's for another meeting, by the way. Item 18, to receive and consider acceptance of apologies for absence. Have we had any? I think we're all
No apologies.
here, aren't we? Okay, thank you. Item 19, declarations of interests and dispensations. 19.2, to receive declarations of disclosable pecuniary, other registrable and non-registrable interests from councillors on items on the agenda. Have we got any at all? No? If you suddenly think of something during the meeting, then just flag it up and it can be recorded. 19.3, to consider written requests for dispensations for interest and no dispensations granted. Have we had any? No? Okay, thank you. Item 20, to consider the draft minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of June 2023. Councillor.
Yeah, there's a typo on the 7th of May. I think somebody was hungry. It says for food when it should say good.
Oh, I'm always hungry.
All right. Okay, with that
Apart from that,
okay, so you're proposing
Well, I've got my hand up as well.
Oh, sorry, councillor.
So I'm generally just one comment. When it talks about the quote on the Fisherman's Memorial,
Yeah.
the inscription, one word has got XXXX like that. I don't think that was a profanity, so I don't know if that was indistinct or why that isn't recorded. I just wondered if that could be looked at. If it is a case that something was said and it couldn't be picked up, could we just minute that more obliquely rather than XXX a word out?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah, okay, thanks for that, councillor Pearce.
Just one more I picked up.
Yeah.
Regarding the Armed Forces Day,
Yeah,
just above item 12, there is an italic line recording that the people had left. Could you check the spelling there, because public has been spoken correctly?
right. Thanks for picking those up. I did read them through, but obviously normally I pick things up like that, but well done to everybody for being really careful and attention to detail. So with those amendments, can I have a proposal from Councillor Brooks to accept the minutes?
Second.
And seconded by Councillor Pearce, and a vote, please. Thank you. You're right with this, councillor Hicks, the vote for the minutes, okay. Thank you, that's unanimous. Public forum, an opportunity for the public to make comments on any matters on this agenda and to consider any advance comments for the public. Have we had any?
None,
None.
Chair.
Okay, thank you. Item 22, finance, to monitor expenditure by the subcommittee from its delegated budget. Councillor
I've
Brooks.
just got one question, which is on the budget, there's £500 that was spent on the town hall riots, and I'm wondering why.
It was allocated, I believe.
It was the allocated budget for the event before we knew what the cost. It didn't, I don't believe it cost £500, but that was that was to cover hall hire and any expenses with hiring the grit. Because we didn't, it was just a maximum budget for the event. It wasn't the cost. I think the only cost would have been whatever the organisers of the grit, whatever invoice they submitted for opening on a day when it's not normally open.
Well, then, sorry, why are we recording things at a certain amount which aren't correct? If
Because
it's-
there's we haven't received the invoice from the grit, and then obviously then it would be then charged accordingly and
Right,
then made good. Then you would see the difference, but we haven't received the invoice.
so don't we then on our budget, we need pending rather than, we can't, if we put the money down, if somebody looks at it like I did, it looks like we've
Like
spent
we
it.
spent it.
Is there a way that we can record it?
It should say, I don't know, I'm having a look now. It should say. Does it say maximum budget?
No,
I'm trying to
No.
find it. What row
Happy
is it?
to-
it's near the
check.
bottom.
Yeah.
So if you go to the bottom of the, you know where it
Yeah.
says spend to date, it
Yeah.
says spend to date.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that includes committed expenditure, not just money we've actually spent.
Yeah, but it's inaccurate, isn't it? Because we haven't spent it.
No, but it includes both because it needs to come off what's left, but it should make clear what's been spent and what is
That's what I'm
pending.
saying.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it. I can't see it.
It's at the bottom on 21. Go
Maximum
down
budget.
from line 21 and find
Yes.
it on
Line
line 26.
26, yeah, £500. Just to mention.
Oh, I got it. So it says maximum budget. So
Yeah,
in column
Does it
J,
say, mine doesn't say maximum budget.
well, it says it in column J, Wendy.
yes,
Councillor Brooks
Column J.
will bring your attention to it
Yeah,
if you want to look.
thank you.
So if you expand out the box, probably why, if you expand out the box on the spreadsheet, that will then set, as you can see, maximum budget.
But on mine, it doesn't look like that.
Yeah,
So why have I got one that looks different to everybody else's?
Well, can you see column J on your laptop?
No,
Well,
I go from A
this-
to K.
can I just
That's because it's compressed.
Can I
It's
just
open.
say from the chair, this is why I asked Christopher to put it up on here, because what I find difficult, and I can appreciate Councillor, when I look at this, I think, oh, right, and then I start thinking, right, if you remember when we were on budget alone last year about having colour coding, because for me, not being a financial expert, I tend to look at things and think, oh, that's, and then I've, you know, when you have to keep looking at the next page on, then you lose track because it's not on the same line and it gets difficult. So it's really helpful to have this, which opens out, which is much clearer than it is on here.
Well, why can't
Yes,
we have that? Why do we have? I mean, it's all right. I mean, people are used to reading spreadsheets.
Mm.
That's fair enough.
Councillor Brooks, would you like to take this offline and we can book a session together and possibly book an IT one-to-one session?
No, I would like this I'd like the information that we get to be presented better. So if something is paid, you can use, as Sonia says, one colour. And if it's not paid, you can use a different colour.
That's just a suggestion. I'm
Look,
not saying
can
we
I just
should.
say, please do take it out, because if Wendy can only see A to K, it's because the columns in between are compressed. And that is about display on the
Yes,
laptop.
it is.
So can I suggest have that conversation? Because I know what's happened, because I do work with spreadsheets,
Yes.
and if you do have a spreadsheet with a lot of columns, they will get compressed. So it's not a criticism of anyone, but have that conversation and then talk about improvements after that. But
Yeah,
the clarification is there. But obviously, if only half a dozen columns can be displayed at a time on a laptop screen, some of them are going to be compressed and hidden.
yeah.
Just finally, can I just say that this isn't confidential information, so members of the public are looking at it as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it needs to be explicit.
Which is why it says maximum budget.
Yeah, but
Look, when an item's paid, it's got a date in it.
yes,
Mm,
but what I'm saying is that this is a public document.
Yes,
A member of the public isn't going to come and have special training with Chris on how to read it.
no,
So when they see it, they will see what I see.
no, they won't. The member of the public is seeing that.
No, they're not, because I just went on the members thing and you can only see 80K.
On the members.
Yeah,
budget. Well, what about on the broadcasting of the meeting?
This is what I
This is
heard,
on the agenda on the Lowestoft Town website.
But what about now on the live streaming and
Yes.
recording? Can they see that?
They'll be able to see that from.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
okay, well,
So-
as long as we make it absolutely clear. That's how we're working, and then if members of the public are concerned, they can obviously contact us, but. Yeah, I mean, that is, I think it's
So those items
the
at the bottom
details get
are,
lost.
those items at the bottom are actual and committed expenditure because they need to
Yes.
come off the bottom line at the top.
Yeah,
So if we agree a maximum budget for something, even if it's months in advance of it happening, we need to take it off what's available so we don't double spend it.
yeah, yeah, okay, because it's important that we know what we've got there to pay for it if and when it's required, right? Yeah, but otherwise you lose track of what you're spending, don't you? I can
Yeah.
see that point. But anyway, as long as it's clear
not clear.
and
Okay,
Use the arrow thing at the bottom.
No, I know,
I moved the arrow and I can now see it all.
yeah, that's true, you can. Yeah. Yeah, you have to use that along the bottom. Anyway, I don't want to lose the bigger picture here when we're looking quite rightly at just one item. Are we clear that this is,
yeah, the only
Okay.
other comment I wanted to make, which I think we had an update from, I'm not quite sure how it came about. I think we had an update at James at the start of the financial year,
mhm,
is the mental health event, for whatever reason, which had a budget of £5,000, was put in with £3,000 and the
yes.
committed expenditure is 5. So although the event hasn't taken place yet, we haven't had the final bill, we've got a potential £2,000 underspend, but so we did have a conversation about how we would deal with that, but I'm also looking at the King's coronation, which is as an almost corresponding underspend.
yeah,
So those two
Yeah.
should balance out, shouldn't
Yes.
they?
Yes.
So about
Yeah.
25 quid,
yeah,
even if the mental health day ends up spending the full budget, which we don't know yet.
no. Right. Okay, so are there any more questions or illuminations to be had from this? I think it's just shows you the breadth of events we are putting on or proposing. Councillor Pitts?
Well, I sort of belong to the same club as you, Colin, Sonia, really. Oh, yeah, I struggle with balance sheets.
No, I'm
I think
upfront
the-
about it.
I think I'd send invoices out and bits and pieces and I just have an in-out column. So I'm just wondering if there is a way, maybe Chris can investigate.
Yeah.
Is there a way to produce something that's more public friendly?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Is that
I
Yeah.
can
Could I
ask
propose-
James, obviously,
Yeah.
James
To
is the
the Andrew
finance-
Jones, yeah.
James is
Yes.
the finance officer, so I don't want to
Yes.
corrupt any of his formulas or anything, so I'll
No.
maybe ask James, and then if there is a resolution that will make it user friendly for everybody, then
Yeah.
obviously.
Could I just propose that we look into?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll second that because like you, this is not my area of expertise, even though I can get there in the end. But okay, can we have a vote on that then? For that to come back?
Just noting Lou, that this is a budget document.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
a budget document.
So-
Yeah, I do appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, thanks for that, councillor Pitts. Okay, are we all right with that now? That we feel we're moving forward a bit? Right, okay, events. A, 23A, any applications for events on town council owned land which need subcommittee consideration? Have we had any?
None received.
No, okay, thank you. And B, to receive a report of permissions granted for events on town council owned land.
I believe the ones what were echoed in the last meeting, Andy the Clown, Sparrow's Nest, Britain Road, but Catch 22.
Mhm.
And obviously the ones what we're holding on our own events with the collaboration
Yeah.
with Get Suffolk within.
Right, okay, thank you. C, to review and consider the following timetable of events. What I'm suggesting as chair is that we bring, because of what was decided last night at full council about the rock and roll event going ahead in 2024, to bring that forward to consider an actual date, because I realise it's important for Leicester Town Council staffing to book the various events ahead of the event happening next year. So if we can just do that one first and then go through the others, can I propose that?
What can I say? I'm not against that, but what I'm
No.
also knowing is missing from here is Big Green Week. Why, I mean, we didn't do it this year because of such busy time, but it's not even on the calendar. now.
24C,
24.
No, but it's not even on our calendar.
because we haven't agreed a date yet.
No.
It's 24C,
It-
C is to consider a climate event.
It's at the bottom of the page.
And I think they changed, we haven't got a date actually for the Big Green Week for 2024 as of yet, because they changed it from the first year to, because that was in September.
That was it.
And then it changed to June, which obviously clashed with a lot of our July.
And I thought that, I thought there
June,
had
July.
been, I thought there had been a suggestion too, that we wouldn't necessarily coincide it with the Green Week. We might do something on another weekend that was more suited to the council. I don't know if any decision was reached, but
No.
that suggestion had certainly been made.
Okay, well, can we just, so that is on the agenda, Councillor Brooks. So if we just say, I propose that we bring the Rock and Roll Week date forward.
Seconded.
Thank you, and a vote please on that, just so we can get that pinned down. Okay, thank you. So if we just look at that first. So it was agreed last night at full council that we would have a rock and roll festival in August 2024. Right, Christopher, from your point of view, is there an optimum time?
So, as you said, we will execute whatever democratic decisions you decide, but I would just like to know sort of a bit more background, because you said about Sparrows Nest Gardens was the preferred location. That
Mhm,
obviously has a maximum amount of numbers that they can hold.
right,
And do you want, obviously you talk about family friendly inclusive event. Do you want to be ticketed to monitor numbers? Is there going to be alcohol involved? If not, that all, because obviously when alcohol is involved, that
Yeah.
requires more
More
security, more volunteers, and more event stewards. Do you want the event to be held with an events team, mainly organising it with our sort of collaboration? So I know there's a lot of events teams out there now that
mhm,
have sort of in the background with rock and roll events. Do you want us to approach them to find out the costs? Because I know the cost of the sound will probably be around just under half on approximate figure, around half. So as you said, any help to get them answers before I go before officers go
Yeah.
any further,
Yeah.
that would be greatly appreciated.
okay, thank you, we'll bear that in mind, thank you, Christopher. Councillor Pearce.
So when we discussed plumes, I mean, Pride's obviously not on here next year, but it was discussed that if we have a Pride event next year, if it's the same as this year, it would potentially be the first weekend in August. So we didn't want to clash with that. And at the previous meeting, we discussed provisionally third weekend in August, i.e. 2 weeks after the Pride event. Hence the discussion about whether staff would be able to manage two major events in the same month. And I imagine on things like approaching SAG, that could be doubled up and, you know, the two events could be taken to the same meeting if they happen in the same month and so on like that. So unless there's a good reason not to, I would suggest that we provisionally target the third weekend in August. The other points, I have no strong opinion. I'm not a fan of alcohol, to be honest, in a public park. I would say if anyone wants alcohol, they go to Giardino's. I don't know what Elise thinks. I mean, I'm just thinking it is primarily a family day, you know, people have fun, and if people, you know, want alcohol, they can go to Giardino's or go to the pub. But if other people have a different view, I have no strong opinion there. Whether it's an event group, whether it's done by, I mean, the only other thing that we mentioned is obviously because you were given like the links with like the groups is obviously because things like you mentioned about the outdoor stage, we knew from the experience of the Jubilee and the coronation what a large proportion of the cost that was likely to take, which obviously informed the budget. But I understand that potentially booking some of the acts can take up to a year to confirm, hence the scheduling and the lead-in time. But whether that's something that's done by staff or whether staff work with an outside events, I have no strong opinion. And I don't know whether it's possible to start with the booking of the acts, but then the questions you've ask councillors to give some thought to those, email them in and discuss it at the next meeting in a month's time. If we can like, if that doesn't delay starting to book the acts, but actually the things around, who does the other organisation and the stage and the alcohol and that, staff can, councillors can take those questions away and give some thought to them, because one or two of those I thought of, but others I hadn't. I was thinking basically of something that was largely modelled on the experience of the Jubilee and coronation. So if we're going to do something slightly different, if we tabled those questions for discussion and bring those back, but start work on contacting prospective acts in the meantime.
Thanks, councillor Pearce.
If you want that as a formal proposal, I'll make it.
Okay,
I am very concerned that it's in August. There's so many things going on in August and then September. I don't understand why the fixation with having it in August.
It's because of the acts, they're busy all year round, apart from like 3 weeks in August. I did my research on that.
It's the amount of work
The
that it
Chris
will.
could phone round and they might have other times that they can do it during the year, but until we know what acts we want and when they're available, it's a bit hard to put a date on.
and I know, having been involved with booking things like this before, it's really important because they do book up to 2-3 years in advance some of these things, so it's really important that we get onto it as soon as we can, and they'll need to know specific date or dates.
Obviously,
what
sound requirements, obviously the bands
yeah.
become bigger, the sound requirements become more complicated.
We don't
Yes.
have to go big anyway, you just have a few small acts and.
And the time for and the duration of the event, is it from like midday till later, or is it till 5? What duration? Because obviously that will indicate how many acts you need on the day.
I would suggest close music at what, 6?
6, 7, something like that.
Because you'll have to get whatever the licensing is for public music as well. won't you?
Not in Sparrow's Nest, in Nest Park, if we have any music in Nest Park, that's a separate, but Sparrow's Nest covers up to 10 PM amplification.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, councillor Pitts.
I think we need to consider any other events that are happening locally. I know we're probably targeting a family
Yeah, it's
event
not bad.
more than an out and out event, but I think there are a few local people that do attend the local events that I go to that would possibly attend the event at the Sparrow's Nest. So I think it's important we do a little bit of research and just try and find out.
From the bands themselves, you think? Because that'd be more beneficial with that
Well, if you just
information.
go on the website, you can see what the plan is for next year, for all the events, really. Just try and, it might just help us sort the date out, that's all. And it could also help us with the booking acts as well, because it may well be that somebody that we choose to try and book one of these other events anyhow.
Yeah.
So
I've got the list of
yeah.
events for next year.
Yeah.
I'll send them in first.
yeah,
Thank you.
And
Councillor
that's
Young.
really
But I-
helpful, thank
but I
you.
think that-
councillor.
but it is a very different event. I know Andy mentioned alcohol. I mean the local events, the real ones, revolve around alcohol. I mean, and I'm talking about revolving sort of.
Thank you for that insight, councillor Pitts.
Yeah, well, which I
Councillor
think
Pitts.
underlines that we're not trying to replicate something that's already been done, which I think is a point that's been made on a couple of occasions. But
Yeah.
as per the proposal, if we you know, the item was on it today, so what I would suggest is that we work provisionally
Mm,
to the third weekend in August, subject to research being done about local events to make sure we're not clashing with anything
Yeah.
that people would like to attend. And if Chris wants to, as part of that research, contact some of the names he's been given, find out about availability. Do we leave it a 4 month or can we do that in time for aid to make a decision on Monday week? Or is that too short time frame?
Too short time frame just to deal with Pride at the moment.
Right.
Oh, that's
yes,
fine,
of course,
that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if we bring it back to the next events and content, but
Thank you.
obviously, potentially if you contact some of them apps, you can ask about availability at the same time as,
Yeah.
you know, asking what they think would be the, you know, around that time frame, the optimum weekend.
Thank you,
Yeah.
councillor Percy.
I'll second that, obviously, and then councillor Youngman was going to send you in the info about the other
About it,
research
yeah.
she's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so if we can have a vote on that. That's 5-4, against. Abstentions, 1 abstention,
Thank you.
okay, thank you, and we look forward to the next instalment, thank you. Right, so back to our timetable here. The 8th of March, that was the 2023 International Women's Day. This was just have a few review comments, wasn't it, about how it went,
And what the next stage.
and what we could do
that-
next year. Yeah, thank you.
I was really disappointed. I thought it was, the people participating were very, very few. We didn't seem to have a focus, and I think that was part of the responsibility of this committee, because I suggested something, other people said, no, you can't have that, we can't focus on young women, so we ended up not really focusing on any women at all. And we ended up with a really, really poor response. I think we have to really rethink this if we're going to do it. The first year we produced, well, not we got a local person to make a really good film. A lot of work went into it. And last year, just for me, it was really, really disappointing, especially when you saw Excelsior's presentation for International Women's Day and Garwin, that were really impressive. And ours wasn't really. I don't know what you felt, Michael, but it just didn't really work. And I think that was very much down to us as a committee being a bit fluffy and vague about what we really wanted.
Thank you, councillor Brooks. Councillor Pearce.
Well, yeah, I mean, all I would like to say, you know, it's easy to say people are fluffy and vague. It's less difficult, it's less easy to say what you would like instead.
I
So,
did say.
so on the same principle, and without revisiting anything that's already been decided, particularly, you know, around having the art category, which has been agreed, but in terms of focus, format, involving external people and potentially putting something together, I would say very similar to what we said to the previous event. Put the for the 2024 International Women's Day, put the item on the agenda, and if anybody has any specific ideas and proposals for what they would like to do in 2024, feed those in so they can be considered and approved. And that would be my suggestion.
Right, thank you. Councillor Brooks.
No, I'm not against that, but I felt very strongly that as a woman who cares very much about this event, I had very little say on it, and I was very conscious that it was a man who was organising the event, and I'm not criticising Michael for that at all, but I do think women need to have more of an input in International Women's Day.
Well, can I just say as chair, councillor Brooks, you're part of this committee, and therefore.
No, but once we had decided, Sonia, once we had vaguely decided what we were going to do, we then left it all up to Michael.
Well, I don't think it was vague. We looked,
It was.
we agreed a way forward. Well, all I can say is that for next year, if you've got some proposal, if you can bring a proposal to the next meeting with your ideas so that the committee can look at it, that's what I would suggest.
And there is normally a message for every year. There's a
Yeah,
different theme. for
They
every year.
send it
They
out.
send
in-
that out obviously closer to the time.
Yes, which
it's
makes
not
it
difficult to plan.
exactly.
Find what
And
you want,
obviously,
but-
when it is considered, the number of women on this committee outnumber the number of men, so there
Yes.
will be a female input.
Yeah. Okay, well, if we just say that we will consider any ideas seriously, which is what we always do on this committee. And yeah, if there's an item or a way forward, if that's brought to the next committee, we can all consider it. And I don't think it's an issue. I guess it is. Yeah, there are more females on here than males. So to me, it's something that I've always been hugely interested in all my life. So I think all of us on here give weight to whatever comes our way on this committee. So I just await the information that we'll get. So that if that could be submitted to the week before. Do you need a week before, don't you, just submit things? If there's a paper produced with ideas on it from anybody on the committee for next year's Women's Day.
But if it goes on the agenda
we
as a
welcome it.
placeholder anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a placeholder. Okay, Councillor Brooks.
Well, it wasn't very good. So we have to take that on, that it wasn't a success. We have to take that on. And I don't know if Michael can maybe shed some light on why he felt it didn't get the responses that.
Before Michael comments, could I just make a point of order? It wasn't a success as a personal opinion. It's not a council resolution. If you
No.
want a resolution on whether it was a success or not, I suggest you make one.
I'm making a comment.
Well, but that's exactly it. So
And I have submitted my comment.
so it wasn't a success is the personal opinion of one councillor.
Well, I think if you look at the number of participants,
Personal opinion.
well,
Can I just say,
if people are actually thinking last year was a tremendous success, I disagree with them very strongly.
Represent it at what it was. You are expressing opinion, which is fine, but don't express it as a resolution.
can
I
I?
didn't express it as a resolution.
You said it wasn't a success,
Well, it wasn't.
as if that's a statement of fact. It isn't. It's a statement of opinion.
Right, as chair, can I just ask Michael,
Yes,
have you
please.
got any data which explains or compares, say, this year's response to say last year's, and how how you felt it went? Because I think it's important to hear from yourself.
Yeah.
So the only sort of quantifiable data is the YouTube views.
Right.
And you have to sort of bear in mind that last year's
Yes.
has had an extra year on YouTube views. They're pretty similar. in
Right.
views. It's about
Okay.
30-40 difference. But that's with an extra year.
Right.
So without really sort of then going in and looking at when those views happened, I can't.
Yeah,
sort of
you'd have
do
to
it.
have each date. Yeah.
I know that, myself and Chris sort of did lots of contacting with various organisations, various people. A lot of them said, they were quite interested, but then just didn't submit anything. We extended the deadline a
Yeah,
little bit,
yeah.
internally, because I had said, I want a week leading to put everything together. And I sort of kept pushing that back from various people, just in the hope that.
Yeah.
Well, I had, at some point I had to say. if we put it out
That's the
there,
cut off. Yeah.
do that. So, yeah, we used a lot of our own personal contact as well. So,
Mhm.
yeah, on that, it would have been great to have lots of people, but then at the same time, when does it become too many to actually then have a succinct thing that you can put out?
Yeah.
If you've got 100 people and they're all doing a minute long video, you're then
Yeah.
looking at, nearly an hour and a half
That's
long
a
video.
huge amount of work.
So, yeah, it's. Well, maybe, it's getting the balance. Maybe for next year, we look at doing something different.
Yeah.
We tried this. It's, it's had this effect. We had the one bit before, which, person's work looking at different facts. Maybe there's a blend we can do, or just something completely different. And we sort of look at that, sort of see what comes about.
So see what can be done. Okay, well, thanks for that. Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that the last 2 years have had in common is that we've left it too late to start. And even the previous year when we had the film, and Maria, who did the film, I mean, she literally did it. It was good, well, it was all her effort, but she literally did it the weekend before.
Mm,
And it was entirely down to her that she had the time and was willing to put that time in to deliver it. We also had a brief for like a 3-minute like trailer and profile, which is the only reason why the 300 budget was set. We ended up with a half-hour film with some profiles, but obviously she then got £300 for that. If we had set a budget for a half an hour film, we wouldn't have been offering 300 quid. I think whether we do it in-house, whether we get external people involved, whether we do a combination of it, I do think we need the longer lead-in time to do it justice.
mm,
If we're intending to get schools involved in any capacity, we need a longer lead-in time. But, you know, exactly as in Black History Month, because they need to plan their turns. So I would suggest if we have the item in the next meeting on a placeholder and people have ideas, that basically we start the work and the contacts with external parties, particularly if we're going to ask them to be involved in the organisation or in putting any product together as soon as possible, because even if we don't need that lead-in time, I think third parties will do.
mm. Okay, is that a proposal?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll second that. And if we can have a vote on
Well,
that.
just
then?
having it on the next,
Well, just, and
meeting.
for people to.
Having it on the next meeting, but basically having a longer lead-in time to
Having a
plan
longer
for it, so we
lead-in
can do it
time.
justice, particularly if we're going to involve outside parties.
Yeah.
That's the proposal.
Well, I'll,
Was that to include some kind of questionnaire going out to every member of the council?
Nothing specific like that, just if we are going to be communicating with or trying to involve third parties, we need a longer lead-in time to basically, so those parties can confirm availability, be involved, do the work that they need to be necessary. So we shouldn't be planning International Women's Day in March by starting thinking about it in mid-January or later,
No.
which is what we've done the last 2 years.
Well, I agree with everything you've just said.
mhm,
I'm just thinking that, as you just said as well, there are more ladies, women on the council now than men.
mm,
Let's get some feedback from all the women
yeah,
on the
And that's what I'm
council.
saying. I'm not being prescriptive about what we do.
Yeah.
It's on the next meeting to consider that.
Yes.
I'm just saying that planning it, we need to start earlier than we have done
Yeah.
in the last 2 years.
If Michael can add that to
Yeah.
your lead-in to
Yeah.
this event, that would be great.
okay, thank you, Chris.
What we'll do is put in the council update this week.
Yes,
And then
that's a good
sort of
idea.
initial feedback from them and then go from there, and then it sort of helps, yes.
Yeah, that sounds good. Right, I'll second that. If we can have a vote. Thank you, that's everybody. Thank you. That's a way forward, isn't it?
Because we all know that women have got far better brains than men anyhow.
Right, I would stay neutral on this
I
one.
tell my wife that every day.
Right, from that to Log Parks. 28th of July to 6th of August 2023. Michael,
Yeah, so
this week, next week,
yeah, sort of, well, it sort of starts, the national campaign starts on Friday.
Friday, yeah,
We're not doing any of the physical events until the Tuesday.
right.
Next week's the first. Had to do a few changes from what the paper I set out last month. Just for the availability, but we're gonna add obviously everything's weather permitting.
Yes,
But adding the openings of the 2 new play areas, so Rosedale on the Tuesday.
oh,
I just need to work out a time, but also including in that a litter pick. So for some officers and councillors, do a little bit of a litter pick down there afterwards.
mhm,
I'm putting together we've got some various bits and pieces, books and things from other leftover from my previous events to do a little goodie bag, like the first however many children turn up for that one. But all the other events are as agreed before. So Kensington Gardens on the Wednesday with the Hedgehog Story Trail and various other activities there. The Thursday got permission to tag on the opening of Sparrow's Nest to the Andy the Clown event. So just before that, we'll go and do that. And then the Friday, Mind are doing various things at Fenley Park.
Uh-huh,
and obviously Saturday leads into Pride.
yes,
And I'm just now putting together all the online staffs that are taking on comments about climate. I know that from was it parks. You're looking at potentially doing a survey, asking people about provision in parks. The survey probably won't be ready by then, but I'm gonna start putting in, getting people just to think about what they like about the parks, what they'd like to see.
mhm,
So that when it comes to the survey, we've sort of planted that seed of engagement. So yeah, a bit like last year with the green spaces for the neighbourhood plan. So yeah, it's all just
coming
hoping for the
together.
weather.
Councillor Brooks,
Yeah, I'm conscious that there's an overlap, isn't there? Or maybe it's gonna be part of it. The Pride event is on the fifth. And Love Parks goes on till the 6th of August.
yeah,
So you'll be,
Yeah, so on the Pride event on the Saturday, I'm over at the Ness. Managing part of the event, helping with the part of the event there, but also offering the demonstrations of the AR app and sort of doing bits with that. So there is a crossover,
Yeah.
but that's kind
but
of,
that's good. I mean,
yeah,
it's a
we've
nice
included
crossover.
Pride in the Love Parks
Yeah.
promotion, so
that sounds
Pride in your park.
Pride in the
Oh,
park.
yes.
We're on it.
Pride in Park.
well, thanks for all your work on that, Mike, and we look forward to, attending where we can. That sounds really great. Any more comments? Right, thank you. Which leads us to the 5th of August Pride event, and Christopher, how that's coming on. I know you.
Well, as you said, the
working.
initial post about the stakeholders involved on the day has gone out. Today or tomorrow will be the food vendors, street food vendors that will be participating on the day. And on Friday will be the lineups announced leading up to the event, has obviously been in Michael's kindly put in the journal.
Mhm,
And on over the weekend we share on various media platforms outside the Lowestoft Town Council.
Mhm.
Okay, so people are aware. As you said, it is an inclusive, family-friendly event, so it is obviously trans performers, obviously non-binary, queer performers, trying to get a range of the spectrum of the Pride spectrum involved on the day, because it's important.
Yeah.
That is a true representation.
mhm,
We'll have local performers and performers across the region coming and now we're excited about being part of the Most Easterly Pride and Lowestoft's first Pride.
yeah,
So yes.
really good. Councillor Brooks.
I have to say, I'm very impressed with how well it's gone down. Because in some ways it was potentially a bit of a risk.
Yeah,
But right from the beginning, the receipt, well, on social media, has been so positive. People, a lot, I don't think I've seen her. Well, maybe on some pages there might be negative comments.
We're
but
always
pages I don't
monitoring
post.
officers as part of the
It's all-
STAG requirements, always
yes,
monitoring
yeah,
feedback and that kind of thing. As you said, trying to engage with local stakeholders. As I said, officers have gone to the True Colours, had a meeting with them, the Kirky people
Yeah.
from, discussed with them, got their feedback on what we should be doing, because as you said, they're the representation, they know what people are feeling. The Marina Theatre, we've spoken to them, Lorna, the community engagement officer. She's got a person that went to one of our classes that's going through transition and got their comments.
good.
And then we'll get them blown up of how they feel and how they feel now, because it's meant, as you said, things have evolved from 30 years ago plus.
Thank you for that, and we look forward to the day.
Thank you.
Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, I'm also impressed by
Mm.
how well it's gone down. I had one comment personally that I guess you might say negative, but I think it just highlights the misunderstanding. Basically, I'm not going to say who it comes from, it doesn't matter. The comment was, why are you preaching? And I said, you're not preaching anything except
No.
tolerance and not persecuting. And basically, there's room for everybody. And it was, thank you for being honest. And that was it.
Yeah,
So I think there is a perception that, you're
And that's why we have the information stall holders, as for them to their
Yeah.
opportunity, their chance to get their message and what they're doing in the community to support the LGBT plus community.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because as
totally agree.
councillors, we represent everybody, and I think that's the key, isn't it? Yeah. Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, just to say that I think what you've managed to do is actually sell it as a fun family event, and that's
Yes.
been from the off, and
Yeah.
that's obviously because you've done a lot of talking to different groups of people. Because the two things that people in Lowestoft constantly go on about, they would love back, one is the carnival and the
Yes.
other one is the air show.
Yes.
And the Pride event is kind of
Given that carnival
touching
atmosphere.
into that desire, I think.
Yeah,
And coincidentally, that falls on that same weekend that carnival used to be
Yeah,
on.
true.
Yeah.
Last weekend
Yeah.
of August.
Right, yeah.
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 Mm.
So well done.
Yeah, yeah, well done. I
So-
think, again, I
It's a team
agree.
effort at the end of the
It
day.
is, and also I think as a committee, again, we were aware it was perceived as a risk, and to me in life, you sometimes take risks to move forward,
I've
so
got rainbow
thank
umbrellas
you.
and mats, just in case. the weather's gonna be really bad.
Glastonbury, latitude S.
Yeah.
yes, I've got my whistle with my rainbow popping. Right, okay, so thanks for that, and we look forward to the day itself. I thank everybody and you know, all the staff that have worked hard on this. It's really important. Okay, thank you. 26th of August.
So can I just say something that just
Yeah.
occurred to me? Is there any way that we can fly the rainbow flag?
Oh, we're flying the flag inside inside Sparrow's Nest.
Yes, that was it.
Right, okay, well,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
yes,
And there'll be flags.
We've got a lot of
We've got
flags.
a lot of flags representing each community that will be put across the parks, respective
And there'll
parks.
be like information things saying
Yeah.
what each of the flag represents, so
Represents.
people can get that information or educational
Yeah.
as well. What that means.
Yeah, thanks very much. 26th of August this year, Norfolk and Waverley Mind and Wellbeing event. Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, so I don't actually know a lot about what's happening because obviously Mind are organising this event. You know, it was originally meant to happen last year, it's been rolled over, so it was actually something that was agreed 2 years ago. They do something called a Festival of Kindness. They've done them in other places, but I don't believe in Suffolk before,
is
it's just
correct.
in Norfolk.
No, right.
So they know like what they're doing, but we're partnering with them, fund them, and the idea was that this would be a start of an event and we would hopefully be able to develop a relationship with Norfolk and Waverley Mind and other mental health groups and charities locally. Obviously, we know from correspondence we've had, I mean, we have people
From one
what's the
organisation.
word I'm looking about, Lowestoft Rising,
Mhm.
and the same person there is on the community partnership, and also they have this organisation which I hadn't heard of 2 years ago called VASP, which is what's it, voluntary and statutory practitioners or partners or something who work in the
Yeah.
mental health field. So obviously there's room for liaison there and to use those organisations to get news and information out going forward. But from the feedback that you've had in the office from Mind, are they on course and all ready to go?
Yeah,
with
they're
this?
all happy. As I said, they're putting out their promotional material on their websites. We've added it to our website. They're putting posters up after Pride into the parks, respective parks across
Okay.
around
good.
around the park, respectively. So obviously
Mhm.
don't clash with
Yeah.
kids
But they are-
confusing them.
They are at Pride.
And they also
so-
at Pride to find out a feel of what's expected, like health and safety and that
Oh,
kind of thing.
right.
And they will meet with me on the day and then speak with me.
Oh,
on the
that's
day.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Brooks.
so there isn't a lot for us to do, is there?
No,
Which is great.
no, just to
Set
attend.
go, just
It's
go.
it's
Just
to
to
attend,
go.
yeah. It's between 12 midday and up to 8 PM. So.
Right, thank you. Again, thanks for your work on that and we look forward to it. Right, 8th to the 17th September 2023 Heritage Open Days. Right, where are we with this one?
No
Let's-
idea, what's the theme?
We've received nothing
No,
further,
no.
officers have not. in
Okay,
either.
Martin Halliday said he was going to contact the office this week to arrange a meeting. As I said,
Yeah.
they've changed their position on having representation from public authorities. They didn't have any last year, and they couldn't distinguish between the councils, but that wasn't aimed at us.
No.
That's all I'll say in public sector. And but They were quite happy to have a town council representative and suggested it should be Michael as the officer because of the comms link. But because of the thing that came up about the railway thing and the deadline this week, I think they were understandably concentrating on that, but they said they would contact the office this week with the details of the meeting, and there would be an invitation going to Michael.
No, that's great. It's just obviously what I reckon, just to make sure, because we are getting, officers are getting phone calls in
Yeah.
from organisations and from members of public.
Yeah.
What are we doing this year? And obviously we can't give them the correct answers or
No.
triage them anywhere. So any information is much useful.
Just to say very quickly, before I bring you in, Councillor Brooks, I heard on the radio this morning that the consultation for the railway closures proposal is going to be moved. So I don't know if that affects any of that, but anyway, just so you're aware of that. But it's a shame because we're sort of in the dark a bit here. Councillor Brooks.
What is the theme this year? Usually the theme is known well in advance. I haven't got a clue what the theme is.
No,
I have seen it.
and
Can't
also,
Gardening.
also there's
remember. It is
the,
something,
The
yeah.
theme, it's the theme.
Creativity unwrapped.
Sorry?
Creativity unwrapped.
and is it correct? Is it correct that the 10th of August is the deadline for the
The submission, the
the
national
submission to the national thing, so that they know that we're holding it here? So that's another.
Oh, no,
deadline.
that's not about where it's holding here. That's the deadline to get the events registered on the national website.
Yes,
So obviously it doesn't mean events
can't.
can't be organised after that. They will just miss the cut-off to be registered on the
Yeah,
national
which
website,
is
which obviously affects their
which is-
promotion.
exactly,
And I don't think they will be counted in the stats for numbers of events either. You know,
no,
when you're talking about the success of local venues.
exactly, and we're really high up on the chart for that, aren't we?
We have,
Well, last year we were
We
the
have been,
second. but,
yeah.
In the count.
So that's a bit of a concern. Councillor Brooks.
Well, I mean, given that we're giving £5,000 as well, I'd like to say that actually information has been not good.
Mm,
And we
No.
are getting very, very close,
that's true. I
very
mean,
close, and therefore, I think we need some clarification on what's going on.
the person who's going to be the chair has said they will be contacting Michael this week. That's all I can say. I'm not a member of that steering group. I'm just passing a message on. What I will say, and I'm limited in public session, is that there have been illness and family issues that have prevented certain people being involved. That has played its part. That's not an excuse, but it has definitely been a part with one of those individuals. But they have said they will contact the office this week. They will be arranging a meeting imminently, and Michael will be invited to that meeting as the town council rep. £5,000 has been made available. Whether they will want to draw down on all of that, we don't know. That will be very much for them to submit an application.
right. Okay, so really, we can't do.
But
much
we
more.
also need to know, because although we don't organise HODs, as Wendy said, we do provide funding for, but more importantly, we need to know about, as a participant,
Mm,
you know, because we can open the town hall on our own, but if we're going to open it under the HODs banner,
Yeah.
it needs to be arranged for a weekend in that period. If we're going to use any of our other venues, that's HODs. So we also need to think about what we are going to register
mm,
before the 10th of August as a HODs event.
Yeah.
Does
So
anybody understand what creativity unwrapped actually means?
I think
It's a kind of such a almost daft headline. It's like, what are we going to call it?
I think
Like last year was inventions, wasn't it? We've had
innovation and
innovation,
which
we've
is
had
quite.
really good themes. So creativity,
I
it
think
sounds like a bit scrabbling around.
I
doesn't
think
it?
the phrase "open to interpretation" springs to mind.
yeah, I could think of some, but I won't. Right, okay, councillor Pitt.
The reason I raised that, it sounds to me there might be a national problem with Heritage Open Days. It might be that there are some internal frictions going
When
on
the
somewhere.
public meeting,
Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I
but
can
don't
say that
spec-
and then give his name. Why can't I say that?
don't speculate on internal friction on another
No,
organisation.
I'm talking about a national organisation.
But it's still an organisation. You're speculating on internal friction.
So-
Well, you've got no idea whether it's true or not.
Well, when they come up with things like
If you don't,
creativity unwrapped,
if you don't like the
and it's
theme,
late,
if you don't like the theme, What's late is the local organisation. That's got nothing to do with the national
No.
one. The theme comes from the national office. If you have concerns over the theme, feed them back. Don't speculate on whether national organisation has got friction.
Right,
Wendy, it can be reputationally damaging. Don't you get that? To the national organisation and the brand.
this, what we have to remember is that we might, you know, we're hearing Lowestoft, but this is going out across the
Yes.
universe.
Is it?
Of course it is,
Oh,
yeah. So we need to be aware of our communications.
It's like when people out there speculate about Lowestoft Town Council, that can be reputationally damaging.
Yeah, it can be.
Just
Councillor Pitts,
just a couple of small points before we move on.
yeah,
Who actually puts together the programme, the leaflet that goes out?
So the local events will be registered by the individual organisers.
Yep.
But when they go on the national website, it will say they're in Lowestoft. And then what the local steering group will do is they will download, for want of a better word, everyone that's registered in Lowestoft, and that will then go into a brochure.
Get that in
Yeah.
the brochure.
Yeah.
Great, right, thank you for that.
Okay.
I noticed last year that the interesting talk about the history of the town hall came after the open day.
that
To
was,
visit it.
I think that's.
Could it not be put the
That's
other
the
way
day.
round?
It was put back because of the Queen died.
yes,
Oh,
that was
was it?
why
Okay.
everything
Yeah,
stopped.
yeah, of course, yeah, that was the reason, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like,
Guess that would be useful to have it before the open day, so people know a little bit about it.
It was originally going to be taking place during Hogs, when the
Yes.
town hall was open
Yeah,
for Hogs.
yeah. Particularly for us councillors, that's showing people around.
Yeah.
yes, exactly, which I did, yeah, and you did. Okay, well, thanks for that. So we're kind of in a hold situation until we get more information, really, aren't we? Okay, thank you. Right, October 23, Black History Month. Thinking ahead.
Michael?
So I sent round, I hope everyone saw it, the
Yes.
kind of outline. So I went ahead with that, so that's gone out to all the schools. I also did
Yeah.
a bit of a document with it, sort of giving examples of things they might want to explore with that. Just to try and sort of eke out different ideas. And as you know, we've got the events coming up, you know, this week, next couple of weeks, Love Parks and Pride. So I'm creating a bit of a flyer poster so that we can try and engage just with, you know, the young people in general, rather than necessarily going through the schools, just to give a bit of variety. Don't know how that will then work with the overall prize, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay. Right, thank
Yeah.
you, Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, I mean, I liked what you put out. I thought that
Yes.
was fine. One thing I was thinking was that our promotion of it, I don't think has been terribly good on social media. And I sent Michael some clips, I think I sent them to other people as well, clips of performance poets, people like Valerie Bloom and John Agard, that are very short but great fun. And I'd like, could you not use some of those clips? I
So-
don't think you need permission,
No,
because I
so-
got it without permission.
Yeah.
And just use it to kind of encourage, you know.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
as part of the promotion, I'm gonna focus on different bits and say, well, have you thought about doing something in this style? And then either a link to a video on YouTube,
Mhm.
or, you know, to a website about a particular person or artist, or you know, just doing lots of different various sort of thought-provoking things
Yeah.
rather than
Mhm.
a kind of standard.
Yeah,
We'll start off with a standard promotion, but then sort of as we get towards you know, sort of the deadline and things, just putting out little ideas. Yeah, just to sort of try and inspire something a bit different, a bit creative.
okay, thank you, Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, so one thing to note, just to we obviously doubled our budget this year because we've got like effectively two potential entries in every category. But obviously, I noticed in previous years we've not had entries in every category. And I wondered why that was. And obviously, in previous years, we've moved the lead-in time back each time. And I think the initial communication with schools this year was February, is that right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I wonder before, because obviously people know I'm involved with a school out there wearing a separate hat, so declaring my interest. I don't want to name or identify that school, so I'm not making a pitch for it. But I know, although they're not a state school, they teach this on their curriculum.
Yeah.
And so when I went in last year, there was a big wall display in reception where a lot of the children had done entries, and I sort of thought, well, why didn't they just reproduce those instead of, you don't have to duplicate the work. Some of those entries could have been submitted, and I wondered why they weren't. And I didn't deal with it at the time because there's other things going on at that school. But what I wondered is, apart from what we can do differently, as in the lead-in time, is there a perception, or is there any discrete way we can find out? Is possibly the fact that we are a local authority affecting participation in this competition? Is it a barrier to engagement? Do people think possibly, and is there a way we could perhaps take a sounding from one or two schools as to whether that's a factor, and whether there's any way we can, like how we promote this and how we brand it, we can, because it isn't political.
No.
When we are a local authority, but we're not a political one, and the theme behind this isn't political. But I wonder whether some people perceive that it might be, and whether there's anything we can do that in how we handle the communication and promotion. If it is felt, I mean, that might just be me reading too much into it, but I wonder whether, because we are a local authority, it is potentially a barrier to engagement. I just don't know. I'm asking the question. Yeah.
Councillor Brody.
No, I don't, I think possibly what's the barrier is more to do with how much time schools have. That they're so overwhelmed with, there's so much that they have to do. Because I think when Paul Page has been here, he said actually moving outside of the curriculum and doing other things at schools in all sorts of ways, it's really, really difficult. I think we need bigger promotion, and we need to make more of it. I think, you know, occasional posts about it doesn't make it seem really, really important. So I think we have to up our promotion and make it look like this is, because if it was run by, I don't know, but I suspect if it was run by Suffolk County Council, there would be more entries. Because they'd make a bigger fuss and they have a bigger department, all that. I think we have to make this look prestigious. And it's the sort of thing that the school wants to be associated with. And that is to do with, obviously, talk. We do have good links with schools. I think we need to build on those links. You know, we have our eco warriors that look after the trees. Well, let's use that link and speak to those people. Don't, you know, we're not going to get into every school probably, but the schools that we're already doing stuff with, let's use that. Let's, you know, build on. And I mean, if we get 4 schools that enter, that's a 200% increase. So we have to, let's do with what, you know, keep building on what we've got and add some more people in.
Okay.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. And as I said, I was asking a question. All I'm saying is that I'm only mentioning the school I'm involved with because it's the only one I can talk about from experience.
Yeah.
I can only speculate on other schools because I'm not in there seeing what they're doing. But all I do know is that the school I'm involved with teaches Black History Month, and the children produce both written and artistic entries which are displayed on the wall. So that's why I was suggesting is obviously they could potentially, they don't need to move outside the curriculum because they're already teaching it. They could just submit some of those as entries, is what I was thinking. And I don't know whether the same is true of other schools because I don't know if, because I think it's on the state, like the national curriculum, but obviously academies, they don't have to teach it, but many of them do, as I understand it. I just wondered whether it was a barrier to engagement and whether we could ask the question, whether they think we should, the way we pitch this publicly, whether they think it's absolutely fine and it's just literally a question of resources and time, or whether they think we need to brand it differently. And that, but that's just a question. I don't have a view on it myself. I just wonder.
Councillor Pitt.
So communication's gone out to the schools, has it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have we, the councils, had a copy of that?
Yeah, so you had what?
Yeah, can you send it to me again?
Yeah, of course,
please?
yeah.
Thank you for that, yeah, and we've got 2 categories, haven't we?
Yeah.
So the wording for the new category, it'll be within that.
Yeah,
'Cause I
so
need to
it's
get-
essentially,
Because I need to get some engraving done, that's all.
yeah, so it's essentially 2 different competitions now.
Okay.
You've got the creative writing And then I think I've got the other one, visual arts.
Yeah,
But I can send you, yeah, the outline that I
Yes, please,
put
yeah.
together again.
And we'll need the perennial shield that we presented last year. We'll need that back, won't we?
Yep.
So somebody can
Yeah.
collect that. And have we, Chris, I think you were gonna contact no, I think it was you,
Yeah.
Michael, we're gonna contact our family in Kessingland.
Yeah, I've
heavily
sent
involved.
several emails and not heard anything back. So
You did say that you had a wrong email address, didn't
we
you?
did, and then we got
Can I
the
send
new
it to
one.
you again?
Yeah, we've got the new one.
We sent that.
I'll tell you what, is it okay if I send them an email and
Yeah.
copy you in on it?
Yeah, of course.
And because I know that they wanted to get involved a lot earlier,
Yeah,
if it was possible.
right,
And our other friend that is possibly still in America at the moment, I don't know. Do you want me to contact him again and see whether he'll do something similar, or maybe even turn up on the day?
that could be good.
Yeah.
Right, okay, thank
Yeah, do you want me
you.
to pursue that? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that,
Thank you.
councillor Bits, councillor Brooks.
Yes, can we not use the Pride event to advertise as well?
that's what, yeah.
Yeah.
So within the Love Parks, there'll be
Yes, so there's
Um,
gonna be,
a flyer, certainly within the, like the handout bits.
mm,
And then also at Pride, do similar. Yeah, that's all,
yeah, sounds good,
all in the plan,
all in the
as the
band,
kind of launch, as it were,
Yeah,
yeah,
even though yeah, it's already gone out to schools, kind of the public launch.
okay, thanks very much. Right, Armistice Day, and then also Remembrance Sunday and Parade event.
do we need to be doing all these today, Sonia?
I was thinking what we could forward that to next meeting, because, yeah, I'm aware of the time.
We're starting to show, I mean, is there a standing delegation for Sarah, or is
Yeah,
it
I
just
think
one
that-
that's renewed
Yeah.
each
I think
year?
a standing
It,
delegation.
there's a
That's what it
stand,
was.
yeah, there is, so that's okay. Christmas market, again, we can look at that again next.
Can I just ask a question there, because obviously you'll take the lead on that as you've done before, but have you got all the budget and stuff you need for that, or do you need a
I think
budget
it's
from them?
2.5, I think it's 2.5K, I think you've got allocate for Christmas events.
Yeah,
Got one, just-
So,
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You're-
so
you're
that's,
okay with that?
Absolutely fine, yeah.
and then the D-Day anniversary, again, if we put that, oh, have you,
Because I went to the officers were kindly invited to the debrief for Armed Forces Day
oh, right.
on Monday. So we went along and obviously they discussed obviously that it's not happening next year.
Yes, yes,
And that we have been able to take it over. Obviously, I'm just concerned about budgets because they've said we should allocate up to £15,000.
Well,
Um,
that's what I said at the last meeting. Once we agreed that we would put in a bid, could we give some thought to what budget we need to do
Yeah,
to
so
prepare the bid?
yeah,
I know we get money from the national organisation if we're successful, but it
Yes.
costs money to put a bid together.
yeah, this is more for the 2024, not the 2025.
Oh, the D-Day
The
one.
D-Day,
The
because
D-Day.
Oh,
it's
right.
not happening next year, so that's just for the D-Day celebrations, because they're
Yeah.
not, that's why they're not doing the Armed Forces Day.
that's it. So just so people are aware, yeah,
Well,
they,
in that case,
they're
then,
not,
because no
yes.
committee's got authority to consider a budget of that, can it go on August full council?
Yeah, as I said, I just have to make you aware, obviously,
Yeah.
to feed into the other.
that's right,
yeah,
because you've got,
yeah. Then the full council.
yeah, so the Armed Forces Day, as we know it,
Yeah.
is not happening next year because of the 80th anniversary of,
So can I just
The
ask,
D-Day
because Armed
Atlantis.
Forces Day is nationally organised, even
Mm.
though each local
Okay,
participating area does its own one, it's a national umbrella
Yeah.
organisation.
Yes.
The D-Day event,
Yeah.
is that being nationally organised?
There is a national there is a national thing happening around the country.
Okay.
We don't know the exact
Oh,
details, but
right.
I know there are plans in the background.
Because I know there was going to be a nationally organised 75th of VE
Yeah,
Day,
which
which
we
didn't
did.
happen because of
Oh, no,
COVID,
they
did
got
it?
just
Yeah.
delayed,
Yeah.
didn't they?
And then they were going to roll it over to the next year, and that didn't happen. So I don't know whether they are going to do a VE 80th in
Exactly.
2025. And that's when
2024.
the VE Day
Oh, VE
45,
Day,
yeah. So I don't know whether that's just been quietly dropped or whether they're going to commemorate the 80th instead of the 7th. But I didn't know anything about a national commemoration for D-Day 1944.
Yeah.
right, okay, so obviously at the moment, that's.
And
all
they
in the bank.
also asked if that they could have a working group with a working group formed as well.
What's
To feed into the 80th D
Oh,
Day.
this is the
And then
80th D.
also then possibly the same members for the National Armed Forces Day, because it will, if we do submit an application for National Armed Forces Day, obviously we have to do it with,
Yeah.
that's not just us, and it's a 5-day event. That's
Yes,
not a 1-day
exactly,
event.
it's, yeah,
They do 1 day for cadets, 1 day for Marines, and then one big
yeah.
parade at the end.
Can I just say, we have got 24B,
Yeah.
we've got
Yeah.
that as a
I was going
separate
to suggest
item.
discuss both under there.
Yeah, we could do both there, that would be my view. Just before we move to that, these next things, councillor Brooks.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I know we had this discussion about VJ Day and it's not there. And I think there's a significant anniversary very soon or this year in August. We talked about the fact that we had the cherry trees in Kensington Gardens. We don't have any plaques.
I think, yeah.
So it was agreed that we would get plaques.
Yes.
It's
Have
because,
we ever done anything for that? I'm
it's
sure
because, the last significant anniversary was the 75th, which is during COVID, and we
Yes.
just had relaxed lockdown. So we had a very scaled down event, which was just a tree planting, not the full event that had been planned. So the trees were planted, but yes, I understand that plaques were agreed, and did we not have a meeting recently where we said
Yes,
we would have the
agreed that
plaque?
they would
Yeah.
go in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it August or?
Yes, it is, yeah.
August,
We commemorate the
I can
VJ
speak
Day
to-
or different day to the Americans. We commemorate on 15th of August, which I think was the surrender. Americans do it in early September on the signing ceremony. So,
Mhm.
but it is basically, yeah, it is the middle of August.
I know
Right.
it's very short notice, but I think we should do something because there are quite a number of people from Lowestoft with connections to that particular
event,
horribleness.
yes.
You know, they have family or,
Mm.
you know. It
Well,
does resonate with people quite strongly.
Some of the Suffolk regiments were in Singapore as well, so quite a few
Yes,
local people
yeah.
in the camps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I can find out with the other officers, when I obviously had a discussion,
Yeah.
another meeting.
It's very short notice. I
it
know,
is,
but
yeah, if you could, yeah, if you could get back to us on that, Christopher, that would be helpful. Right, so if we quickly move forward, so 24A, I think if we leave that till the next meeting, because I'm aware of time and we need to look at B.
hang on. Very quickly, Sonia, I don't want to say a lot on this. Don't worry. The competition, I think we have to think about the element of that. I think it's more about getting something good and quality. And therefore, at this stage, maybe it should be with AIDS still. But
And isn't that one of the items on the Nest group where we were asked for
yes,
availability?
yes,
in that
we've got a
meeting?
working
Yes,
group on it.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm thinking to move this until the next meeting,
I don't think it needs to be on there really. Well, it
Okay,
can
yeah.
be, but
or,
because.
I
it's a
sent an
Nest
email
working
around yesterday,
group,
didn't you? I
talk
can't remember
about
the
it.
date.
Now, we can take it off, and then obviously from that working group, then if it.
Decide.
Recommendations
Yeah.
can come back.
yeah, okay, right, well, that's fine. Okay, I'm aware of time and we've got 3/4 of an hour. Right, 24B, so if we look at, first of all, to consider joint venture working to submit a bid for Lowestoft to host the National Armed Forces Day and form a working group, and this would be nationally, you get obviously huge amount of A, publicity, and B, it is over 4 to 5 days, isn't it? It's not just the 1 day like we have here locally. So if we look at the Armed Forces Day one, and then also, as you're saying, the suggestion that we have also part of that group, an 80th D-Day
Can I
anniversary
suggest,
working group. Councillor.
Could I suggest that we just set up a single group? to
Yes,
do
that's
both?
what I was going to say, both.
Because the composition is almost likely to be the same.
Right.
We had a quite unambiguous offer at the last meeting too from Dwayne,
Yes.
from Ash,
Yeah.
to assist with any organisation that was required for the D-Day event, so obviously our local network.
Mm.
We're going to need the expertise of the people who've been organising the local events for the last few years. We're going to need the participation of the district council. So I suggest that we're going to need reps from both of those at least on there. And obviously you've organised large events, so you know about what you have to do in terms of SAG and all the rest of it, and
Mm.
those kind of liaisons and the pleas. So could I suggest that we set up, whether you call it working group, steering group, whatever,
Yeah,
to basically handle both.
Yeah.
Both the organisation of whatever we're doing for D-Day, 80th, and preparing the bid for the National Armed Forces Day. And that we delegate to our staff to basically make arrangements for the creation of that group and to liaise with the other stakeholders, including the Lowestoft Armed Forces Day steering group and the district council,
yeah,
who need to be invited and have representation on that group.
yeah.
And that'd be my proposal with the delegation.
Right, well, I'll second that. If we have a vote. Yeah, that's great. Okay,
And if we do probably need to set a budget and of that amount, which no committee can sanction a budget of that amount, could we have an item like a placeholder on August full council?
yeah. And that could then cover both events, couldn't it? If
Yeah.
we were privileged enough to get that. Okay, thank you. Right, 24C, to consider a climate event. Councillor Brooks.
I think Chris is already, we're just waiting for confirmation of timings really, aren't we? I mean, I think this event will be organised predominantly with Chris and the Climate Emergency Committee,
Yeah.
I think. Until we actually have some time, it'd be nice to fit into the national event if we can. Is there any reason why, if it's in June, we couldn't do June?
No, it was only, well, when is it? It's the D-Day next year,
Yeah.
so I don't know, I have to find out from the Big Green Week camp, the
Right,
Climate
okay.
Coalition, when they're planning in June and what they
Right.
did this year, that they might change it again, that's the problem, they
Yeah.
might be a
And
movable piece.
Could I also suggest that Councillor Page is chair of climate
Yeah, to get his-
ecological emergency committee, it's just so that he's aware, so that we could keep
Yeah, of course.
communicating. It would
The
be
whole
really
committee
useful.
needs to be aware.
Well,
not
yeah,
just
the
the
whole
chair.
committee, but just to flag up to him that there's, yeah, okay. Councillor.
I agree with
Pearce.
all of that, but I'm just trying to hark back to that original conversation which I think might have been on climate rather than this committee, because I believe Paul spoke on it.
Yes, you did.
Because I think it's a shame that we're not doing a climate event this year, and I think given our stance on climate, we should have an annual event. But I thought there was some, I don't want to say concern, but there were some reservations about tying our climate event in with the National Green Week, because the National Green Week was in late September, and that made outdoor events sort of, especially weather dependent. And so I thought that was why it was suggested that we have an annual event in the summer, so we can take advantage of what we hope will be good weather and availability of people to attend. But did we ever actually reach a decision on that, or was that just
No, no
people
decision.
expressing concern but no
Yes.
decision?
Yeah.
No, I think it was also to with Heritage Open Days, that it was just felt too crammed.
Or 2 weeks after the
Yeah.
2 weeks out, there was just
September.
too much going on. There was something else that went on
Yeah,
last.
in interim period, weren't there another thing going on
Yeah.
in the
But
town?
maybe just, I mean, I think personally, if we look at it, I think if we can not have it in August, basically, because that seems to be jam packed. And
Yeah.
June, apart from this
Early
D-Day,
summer and early
what's
summer.
July, we've got going on in
Early
July,
summer.
not a lot. July is a possibility, isn't it? Like if that will fit in.
Yeah, no, we'll, as I said, we'll speak to the Big Green Weekend campaign and see if they've
Yes.
got any have any discussions. If not, we'll bring it back what we've received, and then hopefully you'll be able to secure a date, and then we
Okay.
can invite local stakeholders as we have done.
But I think again, there's that
May,
again, I think
nothing in May.
we need to have an eye to the lead-in time, because I think the last one where obviously both you and Paul did a lot of personal organisation. I think, did Paul say that took
Yeah.
6 months of fairly solid work to
Yes.
organise that?
Chris.
So,
Yes, it was a lot. Okay, fine, thank you. Right. Item 25, communications. To receive a report from Communications Officer Michael.
I don't really have too much to report. What I thought was, because with like the analytical data and things,
Yes,
it's better to sort of spread that out a little bit, sort of every other month or something, just because then you see a bit of a bigger picture. And that incorporates a few more sort of ongoing campaigns and things.
Yeah,
So that's kind of what I was going to sort of suggest as a way forward with that, but yeah, it's just everything sort of.
yeah. Well, and also you've already given us an update on the Love Parks, which is communications, obviously across the piece, isn't it?
Yeah,
So, yep, okay, thank
but yeah,
you.
if everyone's happy with sort of not receiving the analytical data sort of every month, so there's a lot of time to also compile it.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think personally it's necessarily monthly, but I do like to see it,
Yes.
because I'm not. I won't say I'm not an expert. I'm a novice in mass communication and understanding reach and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see that stuff, because I really have no insight into that.
Mm.
So
yeah. No, it is interesting. It's, you know, a lot to take in sort of every month as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. B, to make a recommendation to aid on development of our
I
website.
thought we'd already done this.
I thought,
So
Yeah,
what I
so-
was gonna find out, because we only had one company sort of get back to me
yeah,
with sort of a suggestion. I had another one through I think yesterday or something, with their quote comparable price wise, but I was a bit less keen on their sort of design approach. So if you're happy to go along with a sort of officer recommendation of the company you saw last week, sort of
I
start
thought,
progressing.
Wendy, I thought we'd agreed the maximum budget,
No, there was no.
because I thought you gave some indicative costs,
There
and I
was some
thought we
indicative
improved those.
No, we didn't.
Sorry, Wendy.
We didn't properly approve them. So I just wanted,
all
and
right,
I think it'd have to go to aid because of the price of the initial setup.
Is it over 3,750?
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah. So. But yes,
Yeah,
Councillor Brooks.
where's the company based?
they are Suffolk based.
Right, okay, that's all right.
Suffolk.
I mean, we do have other local people who develop websites. I won't mention their names, but we all know them. I wonder if it'd be worth getting in touch with them, because
I've contacted quite a few
Right.
local ones,
yeah,
and sort of looked into what they've done. You know,
do you
their
know,
sort of
I would
portfolio.
ask if I was personally, when you think about websites that are really effective, for me, one of the most effective websites is Suffolk Wildlife Trusts.
yeah.
I think that is an absolutely brilliant website.
Of which you're a member, yeah,
Sorry,
of which you're a member.
of which I am a member, yes.
So to declare an
But it's,
interest,
in terms of, you know, you can find anything, the interaction, the graphics, it's
think-
probably,
I'd have to check. I think they are the company who I am. Well, I would
we
have
end
to
up with
check it.
something like that, Michael, would be all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously they've got different solutions depending on what I want. Just to sort of go on that, obviously we need to look at budget. By then speaking to them, what they'd like to do is to come in, have a meeting with a few people, any councillors who are interested, to start looking at early doors, looking
Yeah.
at how website's going to work, sort of what content you want, so that they can then go away. I can sort of work with them. They prefer working with councillors sort of early on, rather than getting they've designed most of it and then getting comments in, because then it's a bit more
Right.
difficult to change the design
Yeah.
focus. So we kind of need to sort of, I don't think they can meet until like September time. But looking at setting up a meeting with them, if you're happy,
sounds like good.
and sort of whoever's wants to be involved.
Sounds like a way forward. Councillor
So then I
Pearce.
propose that we delegate to Michael to go back in the affirmative, arrange that meeting, and I would suggest that any councillor on events and comms is invited. Because it's comms, isn't it?
Yeah,
whether that's Zoom or in person, I'll leave it to them. It's, but if they want to come in, meet people face
I
to
think
face.
they,
it's fine.
they
Yeah.
like, quite like with the initial meeting,
Yeah.
certainly,
Mm.
coming in, do a bit of presentation and sort of garnering sort
So
of ideas, which they can then put together a kind of design.
So I propose then that we say yes, delegate to you to arrange that, and that the invitation is to all members of events and com.
Okay, I'll second that. And the vote, please. Thank you.
So could I just ask a question, and Chair, is
Yeah.
with that in mind, the actual item on the agenda, do you require any recommendation to go to aid in the meantime, or are you basically saying everything's dependent on this meeting taking place first?
I think it needs to go to aid because they might want to start with the
Thinking about budget?
budget and
budget.
stuff.
So basically, I would then suggest that, you know, we trust your judgment. I like the paper that you put together with the options originally,
Yeah,
so that we delegate to you to put together a briefing paper and an indicative budget for aid to consider. And then we delegate the preparation of that paper and the recommendation to you for aid to consider.
would you want to second that, councillor? Councillor Youngwood as chair of aid. Okay, and a vote, please. Thank you, that's good. Now, 25C was moved to this meeting from last meeting. We were sent a really good report, a paper by Taylor, which I thanked her for. Councillor Pearce?
I thought it was a very interesting report, particularly at how we came to acquire a coat of arms in the first place, which
Yes.
I had no idea about. Spoke with that with the local historian. That was interesting in itself, even though it was an aside.
Mm.
So I think that we should do this. I know the comments in the paper, it won't replace the current logo. I totally accept that. It's just, but I think that we should especially given what is happening at the moment and what will potentially be happening over the next 2 years around civic and heritage. And I think given the amount involved, we should progress it this year. I would say with that in mind that it doesn't need to come out the events budget. We have an arts, heritage and civic budget. So we potentially have options to take the funds from there or to split between the budgets. So I think it would be very useful. I don't know what obviously if we do this, I don't know what the time scale is for it to actually happen, given that the College of Arms is involved. I don't know whether it's a process of weeks, months or longer, but obviously if we could complete it and actually have the right to use that, say like by next summer, then obviously in promotion and stuff like that for civic events. And I think it's very useful when you're talking about something through the ages like the town hall, to be able to have both the borough owns and the current logo side by side to demonstrate the continuity from the old to the new. So I think that's a lot of potential. It's not just sentimentality or nostalgia or anything like that. I think it has a lot to offer in terms of civic and heritage related stuff that is happening at the moment, particularly exclusively around the town hall. So I would propose that we do progress it, but that we progress it in effect this year, i.e. as soon as Taylor can get onto it. But because the budget was, I believe, £4,000 something, which in our limit is 3,750, that will have to go to aid as a recommendation. So I would propose that we make that recommendation to aid.
I'll second that. And a vote. Thank you. And thanks again to Taylor for a very clear and comprehensive report, which I thought, as Councillor Pearce has said, made lots of things really clear. Thank you. D, to consider use and maintenance of LTC owned notice boards. Councillor Brooks.
Yes, I've raised this on, I think I raised this on 8, I don't know, yeah, but because this is events and communications, it's here. The state of some, we have these beautiful notice boards.
Yeah.
The content looks dreadful on the whole. I was down at Links Road looking at the entrance and I took a photograph, which I think I sent to Michael, of the notice board.
Yeah.
And it looked terrible. It's like, I think because they glass, the stuff fades incredibly quickly. So You put something in, and then within a month, it looks really, really catty. Now, if we are going to take our notice board seriously, then we have to have a strategy to make sure the content looks okay. So I think we need a way of making sure all of our notice boards are regularly updated so they look nice. But also we can use our notice boards for public information. For example, particularly around climate issues. I think somebody was talking, I think Deborah was talking about the importance of looking after yourself in the hot weather, you know, like shades and drinks. So just public information, we can use the notice boards for that. But what concerns me most is that we've got this lovely board and then they look awful. So I think we need a background, so it needs a strong colour to actually draw people into, because at the moment they're very classy, but then the board itself that things are stuck on with those nice little magnetic things are kind of boring. Whereas if they were painted or they had nice vibrant, we need colour in there. I think you've got to attract people.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks, for your comments. Yeah, as you said, it's always a task, obviously, making sure our notice boards, but we also have to have the boring and legal stuff, unfortunately,
Yes.
which
we
has to
do.
be displayed single to side, because otherwise we are omitting information which then is in breach. We also have to be mindful, obviously, in conservation zones of colours used and that kind of thing. So I don't know if
Yes.
that affects planning and that kind of thing. I know you talk about vibrant colours, but if the board is filled with information A4 size, then it sort of rules out the vibrancy needed because it's filled with A4, it's covered. So and I understand Links Road, that's because Links Road is obviously a coastal, near coast, and it's because the sea air, they're not airtight, displays either. So obviously the sea air gets in there and then it gets obviously condensation inside. So that's when it gets a bit, as you rightly pointed out, a bit tired.
So can I just go on, Sonia? In some
Yeah.
ways, I feel that in my ward, Gunton, there are two notice boards. There's one at Gainsborough Drive, and I think I get the Links Road one as well. Is that correct? So I have two.
Yeah.
Now, I think, and then I'm the only councillor there, but Harbour has 6 councillors and Kirkley has 3. I think maybe councillors, we could take on a bit of responsibility, because to expect our staff to on a regular basis go round, I know I haven't, right? I'm not saying I've been doing this, I haven't, except when I need to put something in and I think, oh God, it looks a mess. So maybe if we could, I know statutory notices have to go in, right? But maybe councillors, we could be more helpful in terms of keeping our notice boards up to date somehow or other.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hicks. Okay, thank you, Councillor Pearce.
Don't follow up the chair, but I totally agree. I live 200 yards away from a notice board. I do not go up and inspect it regularly. I look at it if I'm on the pond. But every time I'm going up Gainsborough Drive out somewhere, I don't stop off and look at it if I'm passing by. I look at it if I'm at the pond for some reason. Or as Wendy said, if I or the GRA, because the GRA has a key, want to put something in there. But the key I hold is for the harbour ones, because I was one of the key holders. So the GRA key holder is not me. So basically, yes, I will try to be more helpful. But because I totally appreciate that where all these locations are scattered, and you know, the parish is a large area geographically to get to every notice board on a regular rota. If a statutory notice reaches the end and you want to take it down, if you just want to send an email out to like one of the key holders to say, please could you take this notice out next time you're passing the board, then I'll be happy to, and I'm sure Wendy would as well, and the other local councillors who have got key holders.
No, thank you, councillors. That's much
Yeah,
appreciated.
yeah, just to say, I agree. I mean, I know that the one at Rosedale looks a bit,
It was graffitied on.
it was graffiti, yeah, that's what I was thinking of the
We're looking
prime
at-
phrase.
Yeah, we're
for
looking
it.
at replacement glass at the moment.
Yeah, and that meant you can even though the statutory notices were in there, you can actually read them properly because of this squiggle all over it. So, yeah, so, I mean, I'd be quite happy to sort of adopt some of these or, you know, and
No.
try and keep them, these things. So I do look at them and check it.
No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, they are supposed to be, because we appreciate not everybody uses social media or has a
Yes.
computer, they are the way that we are supposed
Yeah.
to be, and I think we've lost that. But I think we need to, you know, we need to actually, we've got all these notice
Yes.
boards, but we're not using them effectively. So they need to be look nice and they need to be updated very regularly, you know, well, certainly, well, at least monthly, I would think. At least.
But I
And
think
also I
what,
take Chris's point that all those little bits of A4 and A5, they look a mess as well, don't they? So you've
Mm.
got,
Yeah. As I said, well, as I said, we take on, thank you very much, councillors, for
Yeah.
obviously saying that you're able to assist. Any help is appreciated,
Yeah.
as you know. And we can look at possibly Michael going out and inspecting and seeing what can fit in there, because they're not all
Yeah.
uniform sizes.
No,
either.
no, they're
So it
not.
makes it difficult to one size fits all sort of thing.
but I think the point that Wendy made is very important, because the point I made about going out is if things reach the end of the
Yes.
statutory period and they need taken down. If Wendy's saying we need to put things in there more frequently, but we have one comms officer.
Yeah.
If that comms officer has to go out on that round, it's not a small amount of time. You spend more time traveling
Yeah.
between notice
Yeah.
boards than you spend at the notice board. But officers could say, I've got these leaflets, could the nearest councillor put them, you know, could you come in next time you're in for a meeting, pick this
Yes.
leaflet up and go and put it in the notice board? And then it could be done that way,
So
because when we first had the notice board policy and the notice boards were put out, there were, because only councillors could have keys at that point. It was much more recently that we had keys to like community and residence groups if they signed up to the protocol. So there was an arrangement there where you had nominated key holders and they were meant to be involved in the maintenance of the board. And I think partly because of COVID and other things, that has probably fallen through the gap.
Mm.
I know, as you said, monthly is obviously ideal, but I'd also, obviously, your climate commitment of this paper being printed on 20.
Well, yeah, there's that as well.
notice
well,
boards.
it's not much paper.
No, I'm
is
just
it? We're
obviously,
not
I'm just
talking about
obviously not saying,
thousands.
no, not
No.
thousands, but over the year. that will lead
That's
up to-
quite a bit,
yeah,
isn't it? And the
Once a month,
Well,
but happy to obviously trial it out, see, we have
See,
to trial it
yeah.
out and see. So we'll have new posters ready for you for next full council.
and yes, I think
Okay.
if you know, what Andy says, I completely agree with. Ask us, you know, I propose that councillors should assist
Mm.
in maintaining the notice boards and that we will, in our areas, you know, take on, well, basically what I'm saying is that we need to help out more.
Thank you.
And we can certainly pick things up, as Andy suggests,
Yeah.
from here and take them out and put them up.
But to support, not take over,
As
yeah?
support.
Not
We're
taking
we're
over,
offering
no,
our support,
No, not taking
but
over.
because
And also-
logistically,
No, we
it's,
will do
it's a big
our
ask.
most, because we can do
We're
Sparrows
giving
Gardens
legwork,
and try and
Yeah,
with
and,
our issues.
and also flag up to you if like at Rosedale we see or wherever there's
Yeah,
been a ban,
please.
because we're like the eyes on the ground, aren't we?
Well,
And that'll save you and everybody else
turning up
in
on
your,
site.
yeah, thinking, hang on, why hasn't this been mentioned? Anyway, well, thanks for that. So was that a formal proposal?
Yes.
Councillor Brooke? Seconded by councillor Pearson, a vote. Yep, that sounds good one. Thank you. Right. 25E to receive an update on IT provision. You know, would you like to say anything about how the new system is
So,
panning
yeah,
out?
so this is gonna be a sort of a standing item,
Yeah.
so for, reporting back any like issues you've got, both with the new system, but also, just general IT provision in any case. Yeah, I've been sort of happy with how our new providers sort of communicated, worked out sort of problem situation. Had a meeting with CEO last week, just have a little sort of debrief how things went. And they're very happy. They know there's a few things we still want to work on. But yeah, just sort of reiterate the sort of message of if you've got a problem, please, let me know.
Yeah,
I can't solve problems if I don't know that there is one. Or pass it on or whatever. So
mm.
yeah.
Well,
sort of
just
keep
for
that.
me, just to say, Rupert, thank you for dealing with the when we had the spam issue. I won't go into details about it, which involved myself and and you quite rightly put out a reminder to everybody that if you get something like that, and sometimes it's difficult because members don't realise it until they open it what it is, which is part of the con, isn't it?
Yeah.
So and to flag it up to you, and then you can deal with it. So just a reminder.
And I'm
on that one.
more than happy to receive, if you are worried about any email,
Yeah,
you can forward it to me.
yeah,
So I know like Bernie had an email you weren't quite sure about.
No, especially
yes.
the other one.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
that one was fine, but it was.
yeah,
just
exactly. So it's just for
getting
that.
that balance. Obviously, your emails are in the public domain, so you are very likely to have emails sent to you.
Right, and just to mention last night as well, as chair of the council, that were one or two members who hadn't, for whatever reason, couldn't access or were having difficulties accessing their members area information, which is obviously where the confidential information goes
Yeah.
to. And again, as you're saying, to make sure that members of the council do flag up to you if they have any issues. So just really important, that one, don't suffer in silence, because you need that information to make decisions. Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, so just on there, I think it was clarified that, because I thought it was an access issue, it isn't. I think the query was knowing when something's in there to go looking at it,
Yes.
which is obviously a different question.
Yeah,
But the one thing I do find in the members area, that actually I don't find if I open it from my email or the public agendas area, there's a Word document in there. When I open a Word document in the members area, I then get your license expired. Have you got a problem?
yeah, Renal.
And although I can view it on read only, it's ping, ping, ping each time.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know that's because of how your licenses are set up. It's accessing it through the browser rather than the desktop.
Okay.
Tony's do. To be honest, I would like to work. I'm looking at and going to work on a different way that confidential items can be
Okay.
shared.
Right.
Because the members area is a solution, but it's not necessarily a very clean
I agree
one.
with you, Michael.
So what I'm sort of thinking of in my head would negate firstly that issue.
Yeah.
Of that message.
I mean, the
coming
members
up.
area was only just brought in before COVID, because I mean, before then, when we used to come here, every confidential document used to be in hard copy on yellow paper.
Yeah.
And used to have to come in half an hour before the meeting. Well, that's also not a solution, regardless of the climate things are printing. It's not a solution when 20 councillors have got to read 10 confidential documents immediately before a meeting.
Yeah. And
Then you all go in one room and walk around the table reading them. So when some of the documents might, some of them might be 1 page, but some of them might be 20 pages long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Simply things like funding agreements and stuff. So there needs to be a confidential way that they can be distributed electronically, but not as email attachments.
Yeah.
But the other thing which I have flagged with you, but I need to come in, and you said you thought you knew the problem is.
Yeah.
Everything else with the transition for me is working fine, except I can't open Teams.
Right.
Because it tells me my license expired, it asks me to have a product key. If I try and launch on the browser, which I used to do previously, it just goes round and round in circles and times out.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is, but you said you thought it was, so I just need to make an appointment. to
Yeah,
come in.
because I had that with a meeting I tried to do. And it's now working for me. So I think I know what to sort of like, but yeah, just book a time when you're
Yeah.
free.
Okay.
Before a meeting or whatever.
Okay. I've got an appointment tomorrow morning. I read something else, but anyway. So just to make sure that everybody's aware of that.
Yeah.
And maybe I would suggest, Michael, just perhaps put a reminder out to members following the meeting last night, that if they have got a concern about an issue, to raise it with yourself and make an appointment and come in, because I know you've done it before, but it's almost like, I think when you're not here all the time and you're at home and you sit there, you kind of think it's, you own the whole thing, it's your problem, which it might be. But until you come in here and check with yourself, you don't know, do you? So just to remind people might be a good idea. Anyway, well, thanks for that. Right, I'm aware now we've got 15 minutes, right. 26 to receive an update on the memorial to all those tugboats and seafarers lost at sea down the years. Councillor Pearce?
I'll just, so, well, we had the presentation from Ivan last month, didn't we? She
Yes.
was speaking in his PLRS capacity. So I would just say, can we arrange a follow-up with him, whether it's in person or Zoom, to like look at next steps, taking into account the feedback and the PLRS's thoughts that he gave at that presentation.
Okay, thank you, councillor Pearce.
Very quickly, I think I
Councillor
saw the mock-up of it, and I think there's an error. And there's a word that towards the end doesn't quite make sense.
Okay.
It's on a circular
All right.
plaque, isn't it? I think it was posted on somewhere, and I looked at it.
Well,
And towards the end, I haven't got it. I
we
can't
can
remember it at
ask,
the moment.
we can ask.
You're not talking about the green flag on the South Pier, right?
That one.
Is that circular?
That is what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
that's the different one.
That's a different one. That
But
is.
that's got a mistake. That looks, there's some strange wording in that.
That's the
towards
one
end.
that we agreed that went up at the same time as the Guava plaque in January.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'll check that, and
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do anyway, but it,
I mean, this one at the stage, there isn't a
this is
design.
the memorial, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
There's
right,
no
got it.
design at the moment.
Yeah.
There's just been,
Yeah. Right,
right. Item 27, we were sent a little diagram about this one. Councillor Pearce?
so the only diagram is obviously, when Ivan came in the last one, and obviously this
Yeah.
is in his capacity as a local historian, not as a PRS rep. He quite literally and metaphorically wrote the book on these two ladies and their story.
Yeah,
So obviously we had the discussion at the last meeting, and Wendy suggested the Triangle Market, and Ivan
Yeah.
said that would be very fitting, particularly that location on the right-hand side of the sales site, because I don't want to mention the modern name of that shop, but the shop that it's opposite that's got the plaque on it was Samuel Pacey's home at the time, and Samuel
Yeah.
Pacey was the merchant who persecuted these two ladies and basically instigated the trial at which they were convicted and hanged. So that was the significance of the location. What we had asked Ivan to do was to give some thought to a design, materials, and size that could then inform a budget. And he said in that document, I will do that, but unless he sent it to the office, I haven't seen it.
We haven't
Not
had
the
anything else
flag,
other
but
than
then
the.
Yeah.
Tree and.
So-
the-
I don't know whether maybe we could just drop him an email and said, you know, just a polite request, you were going to give some thought to materials, design, size, I mean, also inscription, but
He did
That-
give
that's-
the
that's
nature of
less
the
urgent.
tree. He did give the nature of the tree though. which
he
is-
spoke about the tree, yeah, because he
Which is-
wants the tree behind it. didn't he?
Yeah.
By now we gave the type of tree in this one,
yes,
because obviously it's got a connection with witchcraft.
yes,
That's why that's chosen.
yeah.
Okay. But that was his request. So all I would say is, before we consider the request in the round and set a budget, if we can just say, you know, like we had asked him to give some thought to material, size and design, also inscription, but the inscription is not relevant to the budget, but the materials and the size it are. You know, would he be able to send in his thoughts so that we can, you know, we can then have a meeting to, you know, to look at a budget and next steps.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't need to vote on that one, do we?
no,
Well,
Well,
if that can be
Do we?
taken forward administratively, that's fine, but I am asking that I'll start taking action. So if that needs a proposal
Does
or
it-
staff can just get on with it, that's fine.
Okay, well, if you're proposing that, I'll second it in a vote. Yeah, that's fine, thank you. Item 28, to consider contacting neighbouring parish councils regarding the possibility of formal parish council liaison meetings on matters of mutual interest. Councillor Brooks.
I think this is, that's not, we have been contacted by neighbouring parish
No,
councils.
this is different.
This is a
I
different.
know the one you're on about.
Well, we have, yes, we have been contacted by neighbouring to ask us if we would like to join them. And was it a planning?
That's a
And we
planning
said,
one.
yes, please.
This is different.
Right.
That was specifically a planning alliance, which we agreed to do. this I asked to go on there. It was actually mooted a couple of years, well, before COVID, I think, and then never went anywhere. And that's why I asked it to go back on, because obviously I know our staff have forums where they speak with staff on other councils.
Mm.
I wanted a forum where, I'm not talking about a lot, twice a year, quarterly at most. And this isn't really just events and conferences, this will be open to all town councils, yeah, who want to participate. But I wanted to explore the opportunity with local councillors, and when I say local councils, I'm thinking of the ones that make up the town of Lowestoft, so Alton, Alton Broad and Carlton Colville, yeah, to discuss matters that affect all 4 parish councils. That would be things like, you know, the cleaning, the traffic infrastructure, connectivity, that kind of thing. Things that we all have a shared interest in, but that all relate to Lowestoft, where we could talk as councillors, separately from the staff forums, and then if there are anything that are of mutual interest could be raised. But I don't know how those other parish councils feel about this. So I wanted to put the feelers out to find out whether they thought this would be a good idea. And if they don't, then it doesn't happen. There's no point if only one council wants to do it, but it also shows that we're open to engagement. And so I would like to make that approach to the other councils to basically sound out whether they think this has merit and whether they would like to progress it.
Councillor Brooks?
I think there's maybe a better way of doing it, which isn't actually setting up yet another group. But actually, when we have mutual interests, I've met many town and parish councillors via Stop Size Southwest because all the town and parish councillors were invited. I also met them at the planning meeting because they were all invited. But locally, really, we should have been. Why is it that we didn't manage to use the tennis courts as an opportunity for us to meet the other town and parish councillors? Because that opportunity was there. So rather than us having formal meetings where we make up things to talk about, we do have things currently ongoing that do involve the other parish, our surrounding bit of Lowestoft. The community garden, Carlton Colville's got one. Why don't we just, I don't know how, but somehow maybe we have a Zoom with them or something, but we kind of share whatever. So I don't disagree with what Andy's saying, but I don't think we want another, a formal committee as such.
I'm not talking about committee.
Yeah.
That isn't the proposal.
Right.
I'm not talking about committee or a working group. I'm talking about communication with.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
I
so
agree.
very much like what you're saying.
Yeah.
I most certainly am not talking about talking shops, making
No.
things up, but which is why I said regular but low frequency. But exactly those things, not so much. I mean, with the tennis courts, it was made clear that whilst the LTA and the other party wanted to involve Everett's, they'd have to have a separate funding agreement for their arrangements, because we might diverge down the line in terms of like whether we want to charge or not and things like that. So they have to be distinct. They would have to be bipartite agreements. But the other things you mentioned, and also the other thing which came up when we took the ground maintenance in-house, is shared resources for ground maintenance. Would potentially be an item for discussion where we could pool our resources. So we have enough on our plate at the moment. We're trying to take our own in-house, but there might be options for cooperation going forward, which is not a case of one parish council buying into another parish council service. It is sharing resources, cooperation, and which would be to every councillor's advantage if it enables each council to minimise its costs. So it was to enable those discussions to take place on areas of mutual interest, not just to sit there and natter about random things that, particularly if they're outside those councils' remit, or things that are already being dealt with on liaison groups like the Parish Alliance. We won't want to duplicate that if there's already an alliance set up for planning concerns.
Well, can I suggest that when something comes up, that we ask our staff to see if other councillors on those parish councillors would be willing to have a chat with us about when something occurs, so rather than like a community garden, I'd really like to speak to the Carlton Colville thing. That could be quite useful, so that we Otherwise, we're gonna sit, I agree with it in principle, it's how you make it work.
Yeah,
Can
I don't disagree, but I just want to say that isn't what I'm getting at, because that's reactive. That's waiting for an item to come up and then saying, oh, shall we approach you? I'm thinking of a more proactive engagement, but I don't have an opinion and I'm not making a recommendation on what the mechanism should be or the frequency. I would just like to propose that we put the feelers out through our office that some of our councillors are interested in having, say, like a couple of times a year, maybe quarterly at most, meeting with you in person or on Zoom to discuss items of mutual interest. In order that we can consider how this might work, could you first tell us whether in principle you're interested? And I would suggest leave it there at the moment, because if they're not interested, there's no discussion to be had.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Can I just, couple of things, isn't there a perhaps I've got this wrong, is there a parish council grouping?
There's STALC, but that covers the whole county.
That's the whole,
Yeah.
isn't there just the northern?
No, because the lowest of the northern parish, I explained this at full council.
Yeah, I know, but it's
the-
important to
The
know.
lowest of the northern parishes community partnership is district council led.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
so that concerns the relationship between the district council and the parish councils in that area. This is concerning the relationship between the 4 local parish
because
councils.
if we're gonna have that, have you also thought, it's, to me, it's not quite as narrow, I agree with you, Alton Broad, Carlton Colvard, it's also Corton. Because Corton,
I'm not opposed.
you know, but you could argue, I'm not saying you would include this, but I suppose I'm thinking big picture here. When I was at, say, Benjamin Britten High School, you would have youngsters that were coming from Somerleyton, and if you're in Lowestoft,
I know what you're saying, because of the school.
yeah,
I
I'm
would
thinking
just
that- and
like to make,
Gisborne,
I would just like to make the
included in that as
tentative
well as-
approach before we
Yeah.
start expanding it.
yeah,
That we make the tentative approach to the 3 other lowest, well, I use Lowestoft in the wider
wider
sense.
sense.
I'm
yeah.
not going to use that term greater Lowestoft that I've
Oh.
seen in some comms because I hate it.
Yeah, it's a bit
Um,
weird,
But the broader
yeah,
area around the wider town of Lowestoft,
yes,
because if they're not interested, there's no point.
Right, okay, we've made the proposal, I've seconded it.
okay, if we have a vote. Yeah, that's fine, it's just, yeah, I
Yeah.
think it might needs to be brought forward. Anyway, okay, thank you. Item 29, to consider the town council's relationship to Friends Group. Can I just say before we discuss this, we've got 4
Right,
minutes
you've got-
left,
yeah.
2 or 3. Firstly,
Oh,
this issue was discussed at AID, but councillor Brooks said there was another angle to this that she wished to raise at this particular meeting. Okay, thank you. Councillor Brooks.
yes, when it was discussed at AID, I don't really think the issue that I was raising was discussed, which was about the role of town councillors within friends groups. Now, we have 2 councillors who are chairs of 2 distinct friends groups.
Mhm.
So when they come to a town council meeting and that item is on the agenda, they declare it,
Mhm.
but they then participate in the debates and in the vote. The East Suffolk councillors usually leave the room when East Suffolk Council is on the agenda. So I think there's that issue about, I know Andy will probably say, oh, I can, I've got a different hat on, but is that really good enough? Like, I do think that being chair of a friends group is potentially problematic, because we saw it last night when a councillor was talking about a member of staff, but they weren't speaking as a councillor, they were speaking very much.
Please, can you be careful?
as-
That was
just a minute.
that was in confidential
I know,
session.
which is why I am being careful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, be aware that
Right,
we are in
all right, okay,
public session.
right,
Thank you, councillor.
okay.
Yeah,
That councillor was speaking as a friend, a chair of the friends group, not as a councillor. That was quite clear. So my issue is twofold. One, is it possible for councillors to remain in a meeting discussing their friends group when they are the chair, and is it really possible to keep those things separate? But also there's the question of those chairs come and represent their friends group, and we have problems with engaging with the wider friends groups where we have councillors who are the chairs on them. So they have become their representatives on the town council. Is that the best way forward for us developing healthy friends groups? Because some friends groups don't allow councillors on. And yet we have two where both of them are chairs. I think we can't make a decision. I don't think we can decide this today. I was very unhappy about the discussion at AID because it seemed to be the two councillor with chairs took the lead and basically told me no.
Right,
I think we need a proper discussion on it.
point of order, Chair.
Thank you, councillor Pearce.
I wish to make clear that AID has the relationship with the Friends Group. The two councillors who are chair of Friends Group, I would like to point out at this point that Wendy used to be vice chair of Gunton Residents Association and treasurer of Friends of Dick Farm and had no such misgivings when
That is
she was
not
in power.
true.
Yes, it is. You left both groups in acrimonious circumstances last summer. We also had another issue this summer where you contacted the admin of a face group to suggest that another profile be blocked, and you said you had reported that.
Excuse me, point of order. This is completely outrageous.
No, it is
You
not.
are allowing him to slag me off
I
in
am,
public meeting.
I am questioning your impartiality.
No, you
Yes.
are using the opportunity
No,
to attack me.
no,
And you are allowing it.
please, Chair, right of reply. All right,
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
Wendy made comments about what other councillors who are chairs are doing. I am replying. The comment that was made to that admin said, may I remind you, Gunton Residents Association is a friends group. Lowestoft Town Council will take a dim view of it if you create a hostile environment for the ward councillor. All that member did was said, it's been reported to Faceback Leave It. What I am saying is this is a personally motivated item. The basic point about declaration of interest is valid. Wendy also has interests. Okay, so look at another organisation that's how often does Wendy declare that she used to be a tenant of a certain organisation and was in litigation?
I've allowed him to go on and on criticising me and naming me. I didn't.
You participated, you did know me. And you're,
Councillors, can we both
yes,
calm
but
down and I
but
will.
what I'm saying, Chair,
Unbelievable.
Councillor,
Yeah.
can we just?
You can't control it.
No,
That's the thing.
excuse-
That's what you like.
excuse-
Nobody can control him.
Excuse
He
me,
just shouts and screams.
excuse me,
Excuse me, Wendy.
councillor Brooks. This,
Well, you can't control it.
thank you, it's not about control.
It is.
You have put forward various.
And I have been,
Thank you,
I
councillor
have been
Brooks.
named and targeted and abused and
Councillor,
lied about.
no, you haven't been like
I
that.
have.
Councillor Brooks, can you just wait? Thank you. Right. Just now, you made various statements. right?
Observations.
I would call them statements. You don't swear at me, right? Well, that's a point of order. I'm
I'm
asking
going.
you to leave the meeting
I'm going.
because it's totally unacceptable.
It's totally unacceptable.
Yes, it is.
What
for
is
you
totally
to be
unacceptable is you
swearing-
allowing councillor Pearce to
Thank you.
yell and scream at me.
No, he's not. He is replying
No,
to
he
your
wasn't.
statement. Thank you. If you leave, that's up to you.
I'm going.
Thank you. Right. Right, but if people,
2 minutes back.
thank you,
Thank you,
Christopher.
Chair.
Right, now obviously it's an unfortunate situation, but
Yeah.
if somebody makes a statement, and I had to say it was in public session, which was important because that was about to go over, it was important. I realise, councillor Pearce, it had made you angry because I could hear that and you obviously raised your voice. However, you were replying to an accusation of people basically not being diplomatic or working towards the standing orders that we have here, that people must declare an interest. So as far as I was concerned, you had the right of reply. So
Yeah.
that is why I decided to carry on. So if you want to tie this up, because we've
Yeah,
got to
I
be a
do.
bit.
I mean, as far as I'm
reading-
concerned, the
a
observation
few
statements,
minutes.
whatever you call them, amounted to allegations.
Yes. well,
Even
I
if
felt
the
that.
two councillors in question were not named, they were identifiable.
Mm.
I wanted right of reply. The issue I was talking about was not an outside thing. It was someone acting in their councillor capacity, and I forwarded the screenshots of that exchange to the office at the time, as
right,
a result of which Gunton Residents Association is no longer a friends group.
right,
Because we felt that we had to stand by our member. When I say we, I'm talking with my chair of Gunton
Chair,
Residents.
yeah,
Right, to be clear, councillors do not participate on Gunton Residents Association. When I'm on Gunton Residents Association, I am on that in my private capacity. I declare my town council interest as an outside interest when I'm there, and vice versa when I'm there. So the interest is declared in each body. The point I do agree with is, whilst it's a non-registrable interest and the
Yes.
councillor should not have to leave the room, it needs to be declared, but it should
Yes.
not have to leave the room. The valid question is, should a councillor who is a member of an outside friends group be able to introduce an item or make a proposal that offends that friend? That probably requires some thought. But ultimately, it has been made clear numerous times that it is each councillor's responsibility to declare their interests. And that's the point I made. If
Yeah.
people are gonna tell me I should leave the room because they can't accept what I'm declaring, I can go back and say, what about your interests?
Yeah.
That you're not declaring.
I think what we should do now is leave this item because
Yeah.
we've got a dash off for another meeting, and to really, this is to do with governance, isn't it? You know, if you want to raise the issue of how people,
Yeah, and it
flag
isn't,
things
and
up.
it isn't exclusive to friends groups.
No,
So-
it isn't.
So friends
So-
groups shouldn't be singled out.
no, so what I suggest is that this, I'm proposing that this item, the part that we agree needs to be looked at, needs to go to finance and governance as an issue, doesn't it? If people are
You need
concerned.
to agree to extend standing orders. From
Right,
2 hours
okay.
to
Yeah,
obviously
sorry.
1.
Right, can I have a
Last item.
proposal
It's
to?
the last item, can you just go on?
That wouldn't, that wouldn't. I-
No, we've got to extend the, sorry, it's standing orders, we've got to extend the item.
Propose we extend by 5 minutes maximum.
Second and a vote. Okay, thank you, right. To get that right, having talked about standing orders, it was a bit difficult, obviously, because it went over during a difficult issue. Right, so if I propose that this item or part of it goes to finance and governance, so that the issue of
Respectfully, I
Or don't
suggest
you
it goes
think?
to full council.
full
Because
council.
if it goes to finance and government, which I chair, I will then be accused of being partisan.
Oh, right, okay.
So I suggest
no,
it goes all the way to full
Full
council without
council.
passing go.
Okay, right, well, I'll say, well, I'm proposing it, you're seconding it, if we have a vote on that, fine, thank you, thanks for that. Right, and that's the closure of the meeting, thank you, and I'm sorry that it was difficult, but to me, we have to keep standing orders correctly, thank you.
Oh,
And
thank
if
you,
you've
Chair.
been watching at home, a difficult one, thank you. Right. Did you,
I'd
can I
obviously be mindful, obviously, your next